The slap came without warning. Amma's head snapped to the side, her cheek burning as her father's calloused hand connected with her face. She stumbled backward, catching herself against the cracked mud wall of their compound. The metallic taste of blood filled her mouth. "You useless girl!" Papa Adana's voice thundered across the dusty courtyard. 3 months I fed you, sheltered you, and this is how you repay me?" Amma's fingers trembled as they touched her swelling lip, but she didn't cry. She'd learned years ago that tears only made him angrier. Around them, neighbors pretended not to see, suddenly fascinated by their own doorways, their own business. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on Sofia village, making the air shimmer with heat and tension. Caleb stood near the compound gate, his security guard uniform dusty from the long walk from the city. He'd come to collect his wages, nothing more. His weathered face was carefully neutral, but his hands had curled into fists at his sides. "Alaji Adana," Caleb said quietly, "the money you owe me, it's been 4 months now. My family needs—" "Money?" Papa Adana spun toward him, his bloodshot eyes wild. Empty pine wine bottles littered the corner of the compound, testament to where his earnings disappeared. "You dare come to my house demanding money? You who should be grateful I even gave you work?" "I worked every day for 4 months," Caleb's voice remained steady. "The agreement means nothing." Papa Adana lurched forward, jabbing a finger at Caleb's chest. "I have no money. The harvest failed. The rains didn't come. My own daughter eats me out of house and home, and you expect payment?" Amma wanted to scream that she barely ate once a day, that her stepmother hoarded food while she survived on scraps, that she worked from dawn to midnight cooking, cleaning, fetching water for a family that treated her like a servant. But speaking would only bring more blows. "Then I will report this to the village head," Caleb said, turning to leave. "Wait." Something in her father's voice made Amma's blood run cold. She knew that tone, the one he used when negotiating the sale of his goats, calculating and cruel. Papa Adana's eyes slid toward Amma, and she felt her stomach drop. "I may not have money, but I have something of value." "Baba, no!" The words escaped before Amma could stop them. Her stepmother, Nala, emerged from the house, a knowing smile playing at her lips. She'd been waiting for this moment, Amma realized with horror. Nala had been pushing for this for months, dropping hints about Amma being a burden, about practical solutions to their poverty. "Take her," Papa Adana said, gesturing at Amma as if she were livestock. "Take her. She's your payment. 4 months of wages. She's worth that at least." The world tilted. Amma's legs went numb. She heard the words, understood them, but her mind refused to accept their meaning. "What?" Caleb's voice cracked with disbelief. "My daughter. Take her as your wife, as payment for what I owe. She's 18, old enough. She can cook, clean, bear children. You'll get your money's worth and more." If you're feeling the weight of this moment, please subscribe to see how Amma's story unfolds. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling us what you would do in her situation. Amma found her voice, broken and desperate. "Baba, please, please don't do this. I'll work harder. I'll find a job in the market. I'll—" "Shut your mouth." Papa Adana's hand rose again, and Amma flinched. "You have no say in this. You're my daughter. I decide your fate." Caleb stood frozen, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. He could see the war happening behind his eyes. He was a good man, she knew that much from the few times he'd worked at their compound. He'd never leered at her like other men did. He'd always been respectful, quiet, keeping to himself. "Sir," Caleb's voice was strained, "I cannot accept a human being as payment. This is not right. This is not—" "Not right." Papa Adana laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. "What's not right is you demanding money from a man who has nothing. What's not right is this useless girl eating my food when she contributes nothing. You want your wages? Take her. Otherwise, you leave with nothing, and I report you to the village head for harassment." Nala stepped forward, pulling a small bag from behind her back. She'd already packed Amma's belongings, the few threadbare clothes and single pair of shoes Amma owned. The betrayal cut deeper than any slap. "Here," Nala said, thrusting the bag at Amma. "Everything you own. Now go with him and stop being a burden on this family." Amma's hand shook as she took the bag. Her eyes sought her father's face, searching for any trace of the man who'd once carried her on his shoulders, who'd called her his little warrior princess when her mother was alive. That man had died with her mother 6 years ago, drowned in palm wine and bitterness. "Baba," she whispered, one last desperate attempt. "I'm your daughter, your blood. How can you—" "You are payment," he said flatly, and the words shattered something fundamental inside her. "That's what you are now, payment for a debt." Caleb's jaw clenched. Amma saw him weighing his options, none of them good. If he refused, he'd lose 4 months of wages, money he clearly needed. If he reported Papa Adana, the village elders would likely side with his father, village politics being what they were. And if he accepted, he'd be complicit in something that felt wrong to his core. But there was something else in Caleb's eyes as he looked at Amma, something that looked almost like protection. "If I take her," Caleb said slowly, "she comes as a free person, not as property. She will have her own room, her own space. There will be no expectations until she chooses otherwise. Is that clear?" Papa Adana waved his hand dismissively. "Do whatever you want with her. She's yours now. My debt is paid." The casual cruelty of those words would haunt Amma for years. She'd been traded like a goat, dismissed like trash, erased from her father's life with a wave of his hand. Nala pushed Amma forward, and she stumbled toward Caleb. He caught her arm gently, steadying her, and even that small kindness made her throat tight with unshed tears. "Can you walk?" he asked softly. Amma nodded, not trusting her voice. Around them, neighbors watched from doorways and windows, their faces a mixture of pity and relief that it wasn't their daughter being traded away. No one spoke up, no one intervened. In Sofia village, a man's daughter was his property to dispose of as he saw fit. As they walked toward the road, Caleb finally spoke. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop it. I'm sorry that refusing would have left you with him, and God knows what he would have done to you then." Amma said nothing. What could she say? That it was fine? That she understood? Nothing about this was fine. Nothing about this made sense. They waited for the bus in silence. The sun was beginning its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. In another life, Amma might have found it beautiful. In this life, it just meant another day of her existence had ended, and she was no longer the person she'd been when it began. The bus rattled and swayed on the poorly maintained road, each pothole sending passengers lurching in their seats. Amma sat pressed against the window, her small bag clutched to her chest like a shield. Beside her, Caleb maintained a careful distance, leaving a hand's width of space between them. Every time the bus hit a bump and their shoulders accidentally touched, Amma flinched. She couldn't help it. Her body had learned to associate any male proximity with danger. Her father's drunken rages, the way men in the village looked at her when she fetched water, their eyes crawling over her like insects. "Here," Caleb said after they'd been traveling for 20 minutes. He pulled a bottle of water from his bag and offered it to her. Amma stared at the bottle, her mind spinning with calculations. Was this a test? Was there a price for accepting it? Would he expect something in return? "It's just water," Caleb said gently, as if reading her thoughts. "You've had a terrible day. You must be thirsty." Slowly, Amma reached for the bottle. Her hand trembled as she unscrewed the cap and took a small sip. The water was warm but clean, and she realized her throat was parched, her lips cracked from the heat and stress. "Thank you," she whispered. the first words she'd spoken since leaving Sofia. Caleb nodded and turned his attention to the window, giving her space to breathe. Around them, other passengers dozed or chatted quietly. A woman with a baby tied to her back hummed a lullaby. Two men argued about politics in hushed tones. An old woman counted prayer beads, her lips moving in silent supplication. Normal people living normal lives. None of them had been traded away like currency that afternoon. As darkness fell, the landscape outside the window transformed. The rural emptiness of Sofia gave way to scattered buildings, then clusters of houses, then the sprawling chaos of the city. Streetlights flickered to life, and Amma pressed her face to the glass, watching the world expand beyond anything she'd ever imagined. She'd never been to the city before. Papa Adana had forbidden it, saying cities corrupted young girls, made them forget their place. Now, watching the lights blur past, Amma realized he'd just been afraid she'd see there was more to life than his compound and his palm wine and his fists. "We're almost there," Caleb said as the bus slowed, approaching a station. Where I stay, it's not far from here." Amma noticed his hesitation, the careful way he chose his words, but she was too exhausted to analyze it. Her cheek still throbbed where her father had struck her. Her heart still ached from the betrayal. Everything felt raw and exposed, like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. They disembarked into the chaos of the city bus station. Hawkers shouted their wares, motorcycles weaved through crowds. The smell of roasting corn and suya mixed with diesel fumes and sewage. It was overwhelming, an assault on senses used to quiet village life. Caleb placed a gentle hand on her elbow, guiding her through the crowd. "Stay close," he said. "It's easy to get lost here." They walked for 15 minutes through increasingly quieter streets. The commercial chaos gave way to residential areas, and then to a neighborhood that made Amma's steps slow in confusion. The houses here were different, larger, set back from the road behind walls and gates. Trees lined the streets. The air smelled cleaner. "Where are we?" Amma asked, her voice uncertain. "Home," Caleb said simply, stopping in front of a tall metal gate set in a high wall. Before Amma could process this, the gate swung open. A uniformed security guard nodded at Caleb, his eyes widening slightly when he saw Amma, but saying nothing. They stepped through into a compound that made Amma's breath catch. She'd expected a small room in a crowded tenement, the kind of place a security guard could afford. Instead, she found herself looking at a sprawling property with a main house that could have swallowed 10 of her father's compounds. Manicured gardens flanked a circular driveway, soft lights illuminated stone pathways. "This can't be right," Amma said, stopping dead. "You said—" "I work here," Caleb said quickly, too quickly. "As a guard, they let me stay in the staff quarters. Come." He led her past the main house to a smaller building at the back of the property. But even the staff quarters were nicer than anywhere Amma had ever lived. Clean, painted, with actual glass windows and a solid door. Caleb unlocked the door and gestured for her to enter. Amma stepped inside and found herself in a small but immaculate living space. A sitting area with a worn but comfortable-looking sofa, a tiny kitchen with a gas stove and refrigerator. 2 doors led to what she assumed were bedrooms. "The room on the right is yours. It has a bed, a wardrobe, and the bathroom is just through that door. The room on the left is mine. You can lock your door from the inside if it makes you feel safer." Amma stared at him, her mind spinning with expectations. Where you would put her to work, what would you be using her for, when would you start beating her like her father had? But Caleb just moved to the kitchen and began filling a kettle with water. "You must be hungry," he said. "I don't have much right now, but there's bread and tea. Tomorrow I'll get proper food." "Why are you being kind to me?" The question burst out before Amma could stop it. You paid for me. You own me. Why aren't you? She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't voice the fears that had haunted every step of the journey. Caleb set down the kettle and turned to face her fully. In the soft light of the room, she could see the weariness in his eyes, the weight of his own burdens. "Listen to me carefully, Amma," he said, his voice firm but gentle. "You are not property. You are not payment. You are not something I own. What your father did was wrong. What I did by accepting was wrong. But I couldn't leave you there with him, and I couldn't fight him without making things worse for you." "Then what am I?" Amma's voice broke. "If I'm not payment, what am I supposed to be?" "You're a person who was dealt an unfair hand. You're someone who deserves safety and respect and the chance to figure out what you want from life. That's all. No expectations, no obligations. You sleep in your room, I sleep in mine. You lock your door, you take your time to heal." Tears finally broke through Amma's defenses, streaming down her cheeks. She sank on the sofa, her bag falling to the floor, and let herself sob. All the terror and betrayal and confusion of the day poured out in great heaving gasps. Caleb didn't touch her. He didn't try to comfort her with empty platitudes. He simply made tea, set a cup on the table beside her with a plate of bread and margarine, and quietly said, "Take your time. Cry as long as you need. I'll be in my room if you need anything." If this story is touching your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear a message of hope today. Your support means everything. Amma cried until she had no tears left, until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen. She drank the tea, ate the bread mechanically, tasting nothing. When she finally gathered the strength to move, she picked up her bag and went to the room Caleb had indicated. It was small but clean, with a single bed covered in plain sheets, a wooden wardrobe, and a window that looked out onto the garden. Amma locked the door, heard the click of the bolts sliding into place, and felt something in her chest ease slightly. She changed into her one nightdress, climbed into the bed, and waited for sleep to claim her. But sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the building made her tense. Every distant sound made her heart race. She kept expecting Caleb to try the door, to demand what he'd paid for, to reveal his true intentions. He never came. As dawn broke through her window, painting the room in shades of gold and pink, Amma finally fell into an exhausted sleep, and for the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. Amma woke to the smell of cooking. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was back in Sofia, late for her morning chores, and Nala would be standing over her with a broom handle and harsh words. Her heart hammered as she jolted upright, then memory crashed back. The trade, the journey, Caleb, the locked door. She was still locked in, still safe. Soft morning light filtered through the window. Birds sang in the garden outside. The smell of frying eggs and fresh bread wafted under the door, and Amma's stomach growled, reminding her she'd barely eaten the day before. She unlocked the door cautiously and emerged to find Caleb at the small kitchen counter cooking breakfast. He'd changed from his security uniform into simple, casual clothes, a plain shirt and trousers that somehow made him look younger, less intimidating. "Good morning," he said without turning around. "I hope I didn't wake you. I'm making eggs and toast. Do you like eggs?" "Yes," Amma said quietly, hovering near her doorway, unsure if she should sit or help or retreat back to her room. "Please, sit," Caleb gestured to the small table. "Make yourself comfortable. This is your home now, too." Home. The word felt foreign on her ears. Home had never been a place of comfort before. Amma sat at the table as Caleb plated the food: 2 eggs, perfectly fried, toast with butter and sliced tomatoes. He set a plate in front of her with a cup of tea, then took his own plate to the counter, deliberately giving her space. "I have to go to work in an hour," he said. "I work the day shift at the main gate. You're free to do whatever you'd like. Explore the compound if you want, though the main house staff might be curious. Or you can stay here and rest. There's food in the fridge. The door locks from the inside." Amma pecked at her eggs, the kindness almost harder to bear than cruelty would have been. She knew how to survive cruelty. Kindness was uncharted territory. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Eventually, I mean. What are your expectations?" Caleb set down his fork and looked at her directly. "I expect you to heal. I expect you to figure out who you are beyond what your father made you believe. I expect you to be treated like a human being with dignity and rights. That's all." "But people will talk. They'll ask questions. They'll say—" "Let them talk," Caleb said firmly. "I know the truth. You know the truth. That's what matters." Over the next few weeks, a strange routine developed. Caleb worked his shifts at the gate. Amma slowly explored her new world, first just the staff quarters, then the garden, then gradually the outer edges of the compound. She learned that the main house belonged to a wealthy family who traveled often. Caleb was one of several security guards, though she noticed the other guards deferred to him in ways that seemed odd for someone of equal rank. She also noticed that despite claiming poverty, despite living in staff quarters, Caleb had small luxuries that didn't add up. His phone was new and expensive, his shoes were quality leather, the food he brought home was always fresh and abundant. But Amma didn't ask. She was afraid that questions would shatter the fragile peace they'd built. In the evenings, they'd sit in the small living room, Caleb reading newspapers or books, Amma watching the small television or simply sitting in silence. Sometimes they'd talk, small conversations about nothing important, the weather, a funny story from Caleb's day, a bird Amma had seen in the garden. One evening, after they'd been living together for 3 weeks, Caleb came home with a surprise. He said, "I spoke to Madame Chioma today. She's the owner of the main house. She's back from her travels and heard you've been cooking some meals. She asked if she could try your cooking." Amma's eyes widened in alarm. "I can't cook for someone like that. I don't know how to make fancy food. I only know simple village recipes." "That's exactly what she wants," Caleb said gently. "She's tired of fancy restaurant food. She asked specifically for home cooking." The next day, Amma prepared her best dishes: jollof rice the way her mother had taught her, egusi soup with perfectly pounded yam, fried plantains that were crispy on the outside and sweet on the inside. She worked in the staff quarters kitchen, her hands remembering movements her mother had guided years ago. Caleb carried the food to the main house, and Amma laid it, anxiety twisting her stomach. She'd ruined it somehow. The rice would be too salty, the soup too thick. She'd be sent away, and then where would she go? An hour later, Caleb returned with an empty pot and a wide smile. "She loved it," he said. "She wants to know if you'd be interested in cooking for her regularly. She'll pay you, of course, good wages." Amma's fans flew to her mouth. "Really? She wants to pay me to cook?" "Yes," she said, "it's the best meal she's had in months." That night, Amma allowed herself to hope for the first time since leaving Sofia. Maybe she could earn her own money. Maybe she could save. Maybe she could eventually go to school, like she dreamed of when her mother was alive. The arrangement with Madame Chioma began the following week. Amma would cook 3 times a week, traditional meals that reminded the older woman of her own childhood. Madame Chioma was elegant and kind, with graying hair and warm eyes that crinkled when she smiled. "You have a gift, my dear," Madame Chioma said one afternoon, sitting in her palatial kitchen as Amma prepared dinner. "Cooking is more than just following recipes. It's about putting love into food. I can taste that in yours." Amma felt her cheeks warm at the praise. "My mother taught me, before she died." "Then she taught you well," Madame Chioma said. "Tell me, Amma, what do you dream of doing beyond cooking?" The question caught Amma off guard. No one had ever asked her about her dreams before. I I used to dream of going to school, she admitted quietly, of maybe becoming a nurse or a teacher, but that's not possible for someone like me. Why not? Madame Chioma's eyes sharpened. Who told you that? My father, my stepmother, everyone in my village. Girls like me were meant to marry and have children, that's all. And what do you think? Amma met Madame Chioma's gaze and felt something fierce kindle in her chest. I think they were wrong. I think I could be more if I had the chance. Madame Chioma smiled, a knowing expression that held secrets. Keep cooking for me, Amma. Save your wages. We'll see about that chance. As weeks turned into months, Amma's life found a rhythm. She cooked for Madame Chioma, saved her wages, and slowly began to believe in possibilities beyond survival. Caleb remained a constant, kind presence, respectful of her space, supportive of her dreams, never demanding anything she wasn't ready for. But peace, Amma was learning, was often temporary. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything shifted. Amma was in the main house kitchen preparing Madame Chioma's favorite pepper soup when a young man strode in. He was tall and handsome, dressed in expensive clothes that screamed wealth and privilege. His eyes swept over Amma with the kind of appraisal she'd learned to hate. "Well, well," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "Who do we have here? I don't remember my mother hiring anyone this beautiful." Amma kept her eyes on her cooking. "I'm just the cook, sir." "Just the cook?" he asked again, moving closer, too close, invading her space. "I'm Daniel, and you are?" "Busy," Amma said, stepping away to retrieve ingredients from the pantry. He followed her, blocking her path. "Don't be like that," he said. "I'm just being friendly. My mother seems quite taken with you. I wanted to see what all the fuss was about." "Your mother appreciates good food," Amma said, trying to move past him. "Oh, I doubt that's all," Daniel said, his smile widening. "Tell me, what's a girl like you doing in a place like this? Are you involved with one of the guards? That security guard Caleb, perhaps?" The way he said Caleb, dripping with condescension, made Amma's spine stiffen. "That's none of your concern, sir." "Everything in this house is my concern, including who my mother befriends, including beautiful girls who appear out of nowhere." "I should get back to cooking," Amma said firmly. "Your mother is expecting her meal." She managed to slip past him, but she could feel his eyes on her as she worked. When Madame Chioma entered the kitchen a few minutes later, Daniel's demeanor instantly changed, becoming the dutiful son, charming and respectful. But Amma had seen the mask slip, and she recognized danger when she saw it. Daniel's attention became a constant shadow over the following weeks. He seemed to appear whenever Amma was in the main house, always with some excuse, checking on his mother, looking for a book, wanting a snack. His compliments grew bolder, his suggestions more pointed. "You know," he said one afternoon, cornering her in the pantry, "you're wasted here as a cook. A girl with your beauty could have so much more." "I'm content with what I have," Amma said, trying to edge past him. "Are you, though?" Daniel moved closer, his expensive cologne overwhelming in the small space. "Cooking meals for my mother, living in staff quarters with a mere security guard? I could offer you so much more. A real education, travel, a life of comfort." Amma's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not interested." "Not interested?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Or not brave enough to reach for what you really want? Think about it, Amma. University abroad, designer clothes, a chance to be someone." "I already am someone," Amma said, her voice stronger than she felt, "and I don't need your offers." She pushed past him and fled to the kitchen, her hands shaking as she resumed cooking. When she told Caleb about the encounter that evening, his jaw tightened with barely contained anger. "Stay away from him," Caleb said. He's not a good person." "I've been trying, but he keeps finding me." "Then stop going to the main house. You can cook here, and I'll deliver the meals." But Madame Chioma insisted Amma cook in her kitchen, enjoyed the company and conversation, and Amma needed the work, needed the wages she was carefully saving. The tension escalated until one evening when Daniel made his final play. Amma was leaving the main house after preparing dinner when he intercepted her on the path back to the staff quarters. "I'm tired of playing games," he said, grabbing her arm. "You think you're too good for me? You think that security guard is better than what I'm offering?" "Let go of me," Amma said, trying to pull away. "You're nothing but a village girl playing dress-up. I know your type. You came here looking for a meal ticket, and you latched on to Caleb. But he's just a guard, Amma. He can't give you anything real." "He gives me respect," Amma shot back, "something you clearly don't understand." Daniel's face darkened. "You'll regret this. When you're still cooking in that kitchen 5 years from now, still living in those pathetic quarters, remember that you could have had everything." He released her arm with a shove, and Amma ran back to the staff quarters, her heart racing. Caleb was waiting, and one look at her face had him on his feet. What happened? Amma told him everything, the grabbing, the threats, the cruel words. As she spoke, something changed in Caleb's expression, a transformation from the gentleman she knew to someone harder, someone used to authority and power. "Pack a bag," he said quietly. "We're leaving." "What? No, I can't just leave. I need this job. I need—" "Amma," Caleb said, and his voice held a weight she'd never heard before. "There's something I need to tell you, something I should have told you months ago." He sat down heavily, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked uncertain, vulnerable. "I'm not just a security guard. I mean, I am, technically, but that's not the whole truth. This compound, this house, it belongs to my family. Madame Chioma is my mother. Daniel is my brother." The world tilted. Amma gripped the edge of the table, trying to process his words. "What?" "My full name is Caleb Okonkwo. My father built a business empire before he died 5 years ago. My mother inherited everything. Daniel and I are both heirs, though we don't see eye to eye on much." "You lied to me," Amma whispered, betrayal sharp in her chest. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." Caleb ran his hands through his hair, frustration evident. "After my father died, women started appearing everywhere, wanting to marry into money. I was tired of not knowing who wanted me and who wanted the Okonkwo fortune, so I started working as a security guard, living simply, to see the real world, to meet real people." "Is that what I was?" Amma whispered, her anger shaking. "Some kind of test? Some social experiment for the rich boy playing poor?" "No," Caleb said firmly. "God, no. When your father offered you as payment, I was horrified. I took you because I couldn't leave you there, and I could afford to protect you. I thought I'd tell you the truth eventually, but then days turned to weeks, and you seemed so happy just being safe and cooking and dreaming about school, and I didn't want to ruin that with complications." "You tested me," Amma said, standing up. "All those months, you were watching to see if I'd try to seduce you for money, if I'd be like those other women. That's not what this was." "Then what was it?" Amma's voice rose. "You let me live in staff quarters when you own a mansion? You let me believe you were struggling financially. You watched me worry about wages and saving money when you could have solved it everything with a phone call. What was I supposed to think?" Caleb stood too, his expression desperate. "I wanted you to see that money doesn't matter, that who we are as people matters more than what we have. I wanted you to choose your own path, not feel obligated because I'm rich." "So you chose for me," Amma said bitterly. "You decided I couldn't handle the truth. You decided to keep me in the dark and watch me navigate a world you'd built on lies." "I'm sorry," Caleb said softly, and she could hear genuine regret in his voice. I'm sorry I didn't trust you with the truth earlier, but Amma, please understand, everything else was real. My respect for you, my wanting you to have opportunities, my protecting your space and dignity, that was all real. Amma paced the small room, her mind spinning. Months of her life built on incomplete truths. The kind security guard was actually a billionaire heir. The modest staff quarters were charity from a man who could have offered her anything. Even Madame Chioma's kindness took on a different shade, a mother protecting her son's choice. "Did your mother know?" she asked quietly about his deception. "She knew I was living simply, yes, but she didn't know about you until I brought you here. When I told her what happened in Sofia, she insisted we help you. The cooking job, that was all her idea, a way to give you independence and purpose." "Everyone knew but me," Amma said. "I was the only fool in this story." "You're not a fool," Caleb said. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. You survived your father's cruelty. You built a new life from nothing. You dreamed of education and worked towards it. None of that changes because of who I really am." "Doesn't it?" Amma turned to face him. "Because now I'll never know if anything was real. Was your respect real, or was it pity? Was your kindness genuine, or just part of your social experiment? Every conversation, every moment, I'll question if it was authentic or just part of your social experiment." The words hung between them, heavy with truth and pain. "I know I hurt you," Caleb said softly. "I know I broke your trust, but please, Amma, don't let my mistakes rob you of your dreams. My mother genuinely wants to help you go to school. She's already been researching programs. That offer stands regardless of what happens between us." "You mean your charity stands," Amma said bitterly. "The rich family helping the poor village girl? What a beautiful story that will make." "It's not charity if it's earned," Caleb said. "You've earned every opportunity through your talent and hard work. Your cooking, your determination, your courage, those are yours. I can't take credit for who you are." Amma closed her eyes, feeling tears threaten. She'd been building a life, a future, on a foundation she now learned was built on omissions and half-truths. But she'd also been building something in herself, a strength, a sense of worth, dreams that had nothing to do with Caleb's wealth. "I need time," she finally said. "Time to think, time to figure out what's real and what isn't." "Take all the time you need," Caleb said. "But please, Amma, don't leave. Not because of me, but because of you. You have opportunities here, a chance at education, at becoming everything you've dreamed of. Don't let my stupidity cost your future." Over the following weeks, a new pattern emerged. Amma continued cooking for Madame Chioma, but now in full knowledge of who everyone was. The older woman apologized for the deception, explained that she'd seen how happy Amma made Caleb, how he'd become more grounded and authentic since meeting Amma. "My son has always struggled with knowing who to trust," Madame Chioma said one afternoon. "Wealth complicates every relationship, but with you, he was just Caleb, and for the first time in years, I saw him truly happy." "He lied to me," Amma said, though the anger had dulled to a persistent ache. "He did," Madame Chioma agreed. "And that was wrong. But ask yourself this, my dear. If he told you the truth that first day, would you have stayed? Or would you have run, convinced you didn't belong, afraid of being seen as a gold digger?" The question haunted Amma because she knew the answer. She would have run. She would have convinced herself she wasn't worthy, that people would judge her, that she was just the village girl traded for debt. Slowly, painfully, Amma and Caleb began to rebuild. Not as guard and rescued girl, but as two flawed people trying to navigate an impossible situation. They talked late into the night, real conversations about fear and wealth and trust and dreams. Caleb shared stories of growing up rich but isolated, never knowing if friends liked him or his money. Amma shared the depth of her father's betrayal, how it had shattered her ability to trust. "I'm scared," Amma admitted one evening. "Scared that if I forgive you, if I accept help with school, everyone will think I'm just another woman after your money." "Then we prove them wrong," said Caleb. "You build your own success. I support your dreams, but they remain yours. You become a doctor or teacher or whatever you choose because of your talent and work, not because of who you know." Before we continue with Amma's incredible transformation, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share this story with someone who needs encouragement today. Your engagement helps us bring more inspiring content. Madam Chioma made good on her promise. She enrolled Amma in a prestigious pre-university program, hired tutors to fill the gaps in her education, and treated her not as charity, but as a young woman with potential. Amma studied with ferocious determination, making up for lost years. Daniel kept his distance after Caleb had a private conversation with him, the details of which neither man shared, but which left Daniel sullen and resentful. 2 years passed in a blur of textbooks and exams and slowly rebuilt trust. Amma and Caleb's relationship deepened, built now on honesty rather than convenience. He courted her properly, with patience and respect, letting her set the pace, proving through consistent action that his feelings were genuine. When Amma received her acceptance letter to medical school, she cried tears of joy and disbelief. The girl traded as debt, dismissed as worthless, was going to become a doctor. The morning she was set to start medical school, Amma stood in the garden where she'd once feared to walk, looking at the sunrise painting the sky gold and pink. Caleb found her there, as he often did. "Nervous?" asked Caleb. "Terrified," Amma admitted one evening. "Scared that if I'm not good enough, what if they realize I'm just a village girl playing dress-up?" "Then you prove them wrong," said Caleb, "like you've been doing all along." He handed her a small box. Inside was a key. "What's this?" "The key to your own apartment near the university. Your space, your independence. No strings attached. You can succeed or fail on your own terms." Amma looked at the key, then at the man who'd bought her as payment and somehow became her greatest supporter. Their story hadn't been perfect. It had been messy and complicated and built on mistakes, but it had also been redemptive. "Thank you," she said, and the words meant more than gratitude for the key. They meant, "Thank you for seeing me as human. Thank you for respecting my journey. Thank you for not giving up when I couldn't trust." 4 years later, Dr. Amma stood in her white coat, diploma in hand, facing an audience that included Madam Chioma, Caleb, and in the back row, looking older and more broken, her father, Papa Adana. He'd reached out 6 months earlier, sick and poor, asking forgiveness. Amma had wrestled whether to respond, whether to let him back into her life. In the end, she'd agreed to meet him, not for his sake, but for hers. "I'm sorry," he'd said, tears streaming down his weathered face. "I was a fool. I was drunk on anger and palm wine, and I traded away the most precious thing I had." Amma had looked at the broken man before her and felt not anger, but pity. "I forgive you," she'd said, "not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. But know this, you are not part of my future. You can watch from a distance, but you have no claim on my life or my success." Now, watching her father weep with pride and regret in equal measure, Amma felt the final chain of her past break. She'd been traded like a debt, treated like property, dismissed as worthless, but she'd risen from that dust to claim her own worth, to become someone beyond what anyone thought possible. After the ceremony, Caleb found her on the university terrace, looking out over the city that had become her home. "Dr. Amma," he said, a smile in his voice. "Has a nice ring to it." "It does," she agreed, "though there's another title I've been thinking about." "Oh?" Caleb moved to stand beside her, careful as always not to assume, not to presume. "Mrs. Okonkwo," Ama said, turning to face him. "What do you think of that one?" Caleb's eyes widened. Are you asking me to marry you?" "I am," Ama said, her voice steady and sure. "Not because of your wealth, not because I owe you anything, but because over the past 6 years, you've proven that you see me as a partner, an equal, a person of worth. You've supported my dreams without trying to control them. You've respected my boundaries while being present when I needed you. You've made mistakes, and you've owned them. That's the kind of man I want to build a life with." Caleb pulled a small box from his pocket, and they both laughed at the timing. "I was going to ask you today," he said, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "Then yes," Ama said, as he slipped the ring on her finger. "Let's choose each other, every day, on purpose." Their wedding was small and intimate, a celebration of two people who'd found each other in the worst circumstances and built something beautiful from broken pieces. Madame Chioma beamed with joy. Even Daniel attended, having mellowed with time and his own failures, offering genuine congratulations. Ama's father was not invited. Some wounds, once forgiven, still required distance to heal. Years passed. Dr. Ama opened a clinic in Sofia village, providing medical care to people who'd once watched her be traded away. She hired girls from poor families, trained them, educated them, gave them the opportunities she'd once been denied. When young women came to her clinic, traded or abused or dismissed as worthless, she looked them in the eye and told them the truth. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are not limited by where you came from. You are not the price someone else put on your head. You are worthy of dignity, respect, and every dream you dare to dream. And because she lived that truth, because she'd walked that impossible journey from debt to doctor, they believed her. On quiet evenings, when Caleb found her on their terrace, looking at the sunset, he'd ask, "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about that girl on the bus, the one who was so scared and broken. I wish I could tell her it would all be worth it, that the pain would transform into purpose, that being traded as debt would somehow lead to finding true worth." "You are telling her," Caleb would say, pulling her close. "Every day, through every life you touch, through every girl you help, you're telling her the story isn't over when the world says it is. The story is just beginning." And in the falling darkness, with the city lights beginning to glow below them, Dr. Ama would smile and know that he was right. She'd been bought as payment, but she'd become priceless through her own determination. She'd been dismissed as worthless, but she'd discovered worth that no one could take away. Her story wasn't about being saved, it was about saving herself, with the help of people who saw her humanity when others saw no one as a transaction. It was about choosing dignity over despair, education over bitterness, forgiveness over vengeance. It was about a girl who became a price and decided to become priceless instead. Thank you so much for watching Ama's incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and resilience. Drop a comment below telling us what part of Ama's story resonated with you the most. Remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you. You are valuable, you are worthy, and your story is still being written. See you in the next story.